I've got mozzarella snacks. By mozzarella snacks, I mean I got mozzarella that I cut into tiny cubes. So, this has nothing to do with the video. This is where I'm at in my life this week, so. Yeah, chronic illnesses. You don't need to know how that relates to each other. You don't need to know how mozzarella relates to my chronic illness. You don't need to know. Anyway. So this week, I ruined my YouTube algorithm forever by binging a bunch of K-pop songs to put on my music playlist. So my fate is sealed now, so let's do math, shall we? Okay, so you can't stuff a whole industry full of gorgeous androgynous people and expect them to not be queer. I think we can all agree. So, the only question is, how many? How many is queer? Possibly which ones, but I'm not here to tell you that. They can come out to you whenever they feel comfortable and are contractually allowed to. Today what I'm here to do is make an estimate of just what percentage are we talking? You know, like how many on average are we talking, right? That's what I'm here to do today. So let's look at some stats, shall we? So if you Google something along the lines of like LGBT plus people per population percentage, you're generally going to find a number somewhere below 5%. I'm gonna go with 5% because those numbers are usually underestimates because people ain't out and aren't gonna tell you if they are the thing. Dear researcher who's doing a population count thing, stats. This is not scripted. I've got like pointers for my numbers and that's about it. So you're gonna just have to deal with that. Right, so let's say 5% of the population. Now, once again, industry full of beautiful androgynous people. It's gonna be higher than 5%. So my conservative estimate, because it's likely higher, is 30 to 50%. So let's take a group like NCT, which has 23 members currently. Yes, that's a real number. K-pop is insane. How can you be mad at them? I mean, look at them. Aren't they wonderful? Anyway, I don't want any BTS people in my chat being mad at me, please. This is not my fault. This is Frankie's fault. Yell at Frankie. Don't yell at Frankie, actually. Frankie's my friend. Don't yell at Frankie. But yeah, you don't know who Frankie is, most of y'all watching this. But hey, here's her Twitter handle. Sorry, Frankie. For a group like NCT, and they're 23 members, that would be roughly 8 to 12 of them, conservatively estimated. 8 to 12 of them, some kind of queer. Doesn't really matter what kind of queer. This is just about whether or not there is queers in the first place and how many. Doesn't matter which kind. This is not about like outing anyone or whatever, just because again, we're not asking who is. We're just asking how many is, right? Also, it's not like we're still asking whether or not some of them are. Like, because some of them are out here doing shit like this, or like this, or like this. And like... Also, as a dancer with like over a decade of dance school experience, I don't think I've witnessed a straight man dancing. The few guys that I met during dance school, one of them was out as queer. One turned out to be bi. One of the guys at my drama club, where one year we did Cinderella and we had to learn how to waltz with me, turned out to be bi. Also, like, he was in drama club. What do you expect? Like, I'm sure I've witnessed some dude like dancing with his wife at a wedding, like slow dancing or whatever. Slow dancing does not f***ing count, is my hot take of the day. That's just you holding each other and swaying. That's not dancing. Off. Like, anyway, where was I? Right. We know they're not straight. We know they're not straight. Okay, this is like a Dan and Phil pre-coming out situation. Like, we know y'all aren't straight. We just need clarification on what kind are not straight. We got a speculative number of general queers. Now, let's try and specify, because we got kind of, you got kind of like the overall LGBT plus, and then you got kind of like the gender queers and the rest, right? So we're gonna go with trying to figure out a number for the gender queers, because for the trans, because the genderqueers, they already kind of are that anyway, and we know about that. That's not the question, right? They're femboys anyway, just from the general aesthetic that K-pop prescribes to most of the time. So generally you're gonna find some trans femmes among that. Now, we're gonna do some math to figure out roughly how many on average that's gonna be. Once again, I typed in trans people stats per population, and Google brought up some lovely studies that said something along the lines of like, among LGBT plus populations, roughly a third of that is trans people of some kind. Again, taken with a grain of salt, because numbers and people figuring their shit out and being able to be out and stuff, right? But I think that's a relatively good estimation in the general population, which of the 5% from previously means still like 1 point something percent is like trans people are rare, which is fine. But again, there's patterns of where certain minority people tend to be more common than they are in the general population, like, you know, in a place where androgyny is the norm. The thing is with trans people is dysphoria is a thing, which generally means that you don't like the body situation that's going on and would prefer to not be seen. So the ones that manage to survive in a very, very, very visually focused industry and don't get to be out as what they are and transition and, you know, get rid of dysphoria potentially, tend to be the ones that are lucky enough to have a kind of dysphoria or a level of dysphoria that allows for them to do that anyway, right? So there is not that many. So we're gonna have to like get those 30% down, because it's not gonna be reflective of the kind of queers that are gonna be in this situation, right? So let's take a reference from, say, some other media queers, like the Fab Five, where 1 in 5 turned out to be non-binary. So we're gonna take that as a reference number. 1 in 5 media queers gonna turn out to be trans is my new rule of thumb, yes. So out of our 8 to 12 speculative NCT queers, that would mean 1 to 3 out of them are trans feminine. Maybe one day we'll find out which ones, but that is my estimate. If we want to get even more into the nitty-gritty of speculating about details, there is the thing of likelihood of what kind of trans. The kind of ratio between binary and non-binary trans people tends to be pretty even across the board, but then again, dysphoria in the media, there is a high likelihood that binaries would have more severe dysphoria than non-binaries. There's obviously range, but we're not talking about the entire range of non-binaries either. We're talking about the range that has the most acceptable dysphoria. And if we compare like the range of trans-binary dysphoria versus the range of non-binary dysphoria, there's going to be more non-binary on the acceptable level of that for media work in this to this extent as a closeted person, right? So on average, there's probably going to be a higher likelihood of somebody who is closeted and works in media in a very visual capacity to be non-binary rather than trans-binary. So likely those trans feminine people are probably gonna be non-binaries, or at least non-binary leaning. Whether cis leaning or trans leaning doesn't really matter at that point, but probably like there might be a trans woman in there, but less likely than other options, basically. So yes, that was doing we did some gay math. Look forward to next video someday. Who knows when. I'm working on the next part of the tutorial. Don't worry about it. But this was less effort. I don't know how the world's gonna be, but if in like 5 to 20 years we know the actual number and I was right, then I will have bragging rights forever. Gay math. Yeah. Okay, that's it now. Okay, bye.